Well, the fallout of Karine Jean-Pierre throwing off her shackles from the Democrat Party and going independent have really hit home this morning. Democrats absolutely throwing her under the bus, disavowing her. They're done. She's exiled. It's beautiful. We've popped all the popcorn. And now everyone who worked with Karine Jean-Pierre, they feel free to tell the truth about what they really think of her. And we'll share it with you coming up in just a second. Also, I think the CNN panel that Scott Jennings dominates every night, I think they finally had enough. They absolutely exploded on him because they're just sick and tired of him being right. We'll show you what happened. It's good. Also, Democrats are trying to push back on the Republicans' reconciliation bill, the big, beautiful bill, the tax cut. They really don't want you to keep your money. So they've put together their best arguments, and they're pathetic. And we'll share that with you coming up in just a sec. I am #1 best-selling author Larry O'Connor, but you can call me Larry. It's true. Look at that. Look at that. After 4 months of being released, I'm the #1 bestseller again. I mean, I was the #1 bestseller the week it came out, but I'm the #1 bestseller again. Go and buy my book. Thank you, Jake Tapper. Thank you, Karine Jean-Pierre. People want the truth. They don't want Tapper. They don't want Karine. They want the truth. Yesterday, we delivered the breaking news that Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary who, lied professionally on behalf of the Democrats and the Biden administration, is writing a tell-all book. You saw all that yesterday. And the big takeaway, the big publicity getter for the announcement was the fact that she's no longer a Democrat. She's independent. And do you know what that means? That means Democrats don't feel the need to lie on her behalf and cover up for her and protect her anymore. Yep, she is a woman without a country. I'm sorry, she's a birthing person without a country. And the knives are out. It started this morning with Axios, ironically written by Alex Thompson, Jake Tapper's co-author. Take a look at this. One former White House official who worked closely with Jean-Pierre told Axios that she was one of the most ineffectual and unprepared people I've ever worked with. She had meltdowns after any interview that asked about a topic not sent over by producers. Hold on. I mean, that's a good headline. It's a great quote. Buried lead. Producers would send over topics to the White House press secretary before they had an interview with her. Hey, we'd love to have an interview with the White House press secretary, only if you tell us what you're going to talk about first. Well, we're going to talk about stuff going on at the White House and the Biden administration and policies and stuff. Specifically, we need specific topics sent to us or she's not showing up. And then apparently she bursts into a rage. If anybody on those TV shows dared to ask her a question that wasn't pre-screened, good God. I thought that was only the rule that Joe Biden got to enjoy. More from the Axios article. She didn't know how to manage a team, didn't know how to shape or deliver a message, or often created more problems than she solved, the official said. Hold on. She was the White House press secretary and communications director, and she didn't know how to shape or deliver a message. Maybe they should have, worked that out before they gave her the job. But of course, when she got the job, there were no huge magazine cover spreads and glowing television profiles and newspaper articles written up about her because she was great at shaping or delivering a message or managing a team. No, it was all the same thing. The first Black, openly gay woman. She's not gay, is she? Wasn't she bisexual? I lost track of which letter she was in the alphabet there. But either way, that's all that mattered. That's what it was all about. And nobody dared to stand up and say, is she good at what she does? Is she even competent at doing the job? No. In fact, if you ask that question, if you even raised the specter that maybe she was incompetent, you were racist, you were sexist, and you were a homophobe. Until today. Today, you can say all those things about her. because today she's no longer a Democrat. It's amazing how beautiful the pattern of behavior here is. And they have no self-awareness at all. Why should they? They get away with it every time. We're the only ones who point it out. Former Biden communications official threw more wood on the fire. By the way, real fast, this person, like the other person, was identified as a White House official. This person is specifically identified as a communications official. That means this is someone who worked in her office, in the comms shop, either her peer or a subordinate. How beautiful is this? The hubris of thinking you can position yourself as an outsider when you not only have enjoyed the perks of extreme proximity to power, which bestows the name recognition needed to sell books off your name, but have actively wielded it from the biggest pulpit there is as breathtaking as it is desperate. It's difficult to see how this is anything but a bizarre cash grab. A source told Politico something pretty much the same, but a little pithier. Everybody sees this for the grift that it is. Of course it is. I mean, unlike Jen Psaki, her predecessor, who got a primetime cable show, the second Karine Jean-Pierre left the White House, nobody was giving her a cable news show because she could barely even read the binder in front of her. She's not going to figure out a teleprompter. She had no skill set. So now to sell books, she decides, I'm going to be independent. I'm no longer a Democrat. And now the Democrats have no reason to protect her anymore. They have no reason to lie about her anymore. This is glorious. If it weren't so cynical, sad, and frankly, pathetic. Another former White House, I love they're all coming out of the woodwork. Another former White House official, familiar with the dynamics, told Access, I think this is Jill. I'm guessing this is Dr. Jill. The amount of time that was spent coddling Jean-Pierre and appeasing her was astronomical compared to our attention on actual matters of substance. Yeah, so, instead of doing the hard work of wiping the drool off Joe Biden's chin and explaining to him what day of the week it was, they had to spend time coddling and appeasing Karine Jean-Pierre. A former senior spokesperson in Biden's administration added, hold on, that narrows it down to like one person. I can only think of one person who was a senior spokesperson in the administration. That would be John Kirby. You remember, John Kirby would often conduct briefings to the media when the issue had to do with national security, foreign policy, the situation in Israel and Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, the hard stuff. Do you remember any other White House operating that way? You got your White House spokesperson. Oh, but if the big issue of the day has to do with the military or national security or foreign policy, here, we're gonna call in the righty from the bullpen. Come on in, John. We need a relief pitcher here in the 7th inning. No White House ever acted that way. Why did they have to do that with Karine Jean-Pierre? Why did we need to have the spokesperson for the National Security Council handle it? Because she was incompetent. So I'm guessing this former senior spokesperson in Biden's administration is, in fact, John Kirby. In fact, we've got more on the John Kirby dynamic coming up in a moment. Quote, it's hard to believe someone could look at the past year and genuinely think the party left Joe Biden. That's why I'm leaving the Democratic Party. Former White House communications official said today Karine lost the only constituency that ever supported her. Party line Democrats. Jean-Pierre did not respond to requests for comment. I'm shocked. I would think she said, buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. I'm begging you, buy my book. Please. Buy my book. Buy my book. Despite longstanding internal frustration with Jean-Pierre's performance since she took over as press secretary in mid-2022. Hold on. What do you mean longstanding internal frustration? Why are we just learning about this now? See, this is what drives me nuts about the Alex Thompsons of the world and the Jake Tappers of the world, is that everybody said the same thing about her. Oh, she broke so many glass ceilings and she's so dynamic, and look at her outfits and she's so great on the red carpet and Vogue and the photo shoots, and she's so cute with her little mop top, and she's great. And why is Peter Ducey so mean to her? And it's like, that's all you heard. But now apparently it's long-standing internal frustration over Karine Jean-Pierre. Since she took over as press secretary in mid-2022, Biden aides largely had stayed silent because she was seen as untouchable given her race and gender. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm just reading that in here. Given her close relationship with Joe Biden's top aide, Anthony Bernal. During Biden's presidency, Bernal had a hand in hiring many White House aides who were prioritized for their loyalty. Yeah, you always want to just prioritize people over their loyalty, not their competence. Absolutely stunning, amazing, wonderful to watch. And there's more. Alex Thompson, who wrote this story for Axios, says many quietly had fumed for years, believing she was. Oh, no, hold on. So if Alex Thompson, let's unpack this for a second, because again, this just drives me nuts. It's why you should buy my book and not their book. So Alex Thompson now says in his reporting that many quietly had fumed for years, believing she was incompetent at her job at the podium and more interested in promoting herself than Joe Biden. Now, he's stating that as fact that he has received as a reporter and now is conveying to you as a reported fact. He knows this in one of two ways. Either his source has told him this anonymously and he's just repeating it, right? So in other words, hey, Alex, a lot of us fumed for years. We thought she was incompetent at her job and she only wanted to promote herself. So Alex Thompson has a source that is telling him that, and he's just regurgitating it, right? And that source refuses to go on the record and put their name on the record, but Alex is just going to regurgitate it. And oh, by the way, isn't one of the major themes of the book he just wrote about Joe Biden's decline that the people in the White House lied to him and lied to Jake Tapper and lied to the other reporters and lied to you about Joe Biden? Now, can't we suppose and assume that this person who leaked this to Alex Thompson and gave him this little nugget is one of those people that also lied to him for years about Joe Biden, right? It's one of his White House sources. And yet here he goes again, just regurgitating it. How do we know this is true? How do we know he's telling the truth? Okay, so that's one way he knows this. One way he has this information is that a source who lied to him before is now giving him this information. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter if it's true. He just wants the clicks. Buy my book. All right. The other way that Alex Thompson would know this, there is another way. I told you there's two ways. One is from a source who we already know is probably a liar. The other way Alex Thompson knows that many quietly fumed for years, believing she was incompetent and only interested in promoting herself, is if he witnessed it firsthand, right? That's the only other way he would know this to be true. Either someone told him today, or while he was working as a White House correspondent for these very same years, he witnessed people complaining about her. And if that's the case, why is he just reporting it now? Why is he just reporting it now? Why didn't he report it then when he witnessed it? Either way, this is why people hate Washington, D.C. reporters. The other reason is because they refuse to even call themselves reporters anymore. They want to be called journalists. Oh, he's a journalist, don't you know? Biden aides largely had stayed silent because she was seen as untouchable, given her close relationship with First Lady, as was said in the report. Jean-Pierre also caused internal drama. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Jean-Pierre also caused internal drama by repeatedly blocking National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby from joining her at the White House podium, even when national security issues were at the forefront of the news. Remember, I just laid that out for you. Oftentimes, especially during the Gaza-Israeli conflict and the Ukraine-Russia conflict, John Kirby would man the podium. Apparently, that got under Jean-Pierre's very thin skin. And so she would often block him from coordinating or even attending these press briefings. In fact, according to Alex Thompson, one example that caused internal anger was when Jean-Pierre blocked Kirby because she had a final celebration of her time at the podium. They were doing a party in the briefing room for her last press briefing, as Biden was out the door. And it just so happened that this was at the same time an Israel-Hamas ceasefire hostage deal was in the works. So the National Security Council wanted Kirby to go out there and deliver that message and field questions. And Karine Jean-Pierre said, no, because we're having a party for me. I believe that with every fiber of my being. I have no doubt that that's exactly what happened. Hey, it looks like we've got a hostage ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Yeah, sorry. Today's about me. Today's about me. Oh, this is glorious. Somebody who worked in the White House. This has been deleted, but this is someone who worked as I think, economic advisor in the Biden White House. Put this out there, captured it. He's deleted it. It was only out there for about an hour. From a White House policy staff perspective, the real problem with Karine Jean-Pierre was that she was kind of dumb. How do you really feel, Tim? No interest in understanding harder topics, just gave random incoherent answers on policy. So, I mean, again, this is not news to you because you watch this show, and we pretty much said the same thing every single day when we had video of her briefings. She was dumb. She couldn't put sentences together. She couldn't even, again, she had a binder with little cross tabs for every subject. And when a question came up, she would turn to the tab. She would then, most people who are press secretaries, communications people, PR people, or people in the media like me, we might have notes, even though I don't have notes in front of me. I just do this thing that you see me do. But sometimes you want to have notes. People have notes. I've worked with notes before. You got a couple of bullet point items. You've got the note. You're reminded of the bullet point item that you wanted to repeat. And then you use your brain and your ability to speak to convert that note into a message, and you deliver it. That's what people do. Not our gal, Karine Jean-Pierre, not Sideshow Bob had. She would pull the tab, turn it over, and then she would read verbatim exactly the script that had been written out for her to respond to the topic. Even though the question may have been on topic but wasn't directly related to her script, she would still just read the script. And even that she had trouble reading. She would stammer, she would stutter, she would skip over it. She was, in the words of a close confidant of mine, kind of dumb, with no interest in understanding harder topics, and just gave random incoherent answers on policy. That's exactly who she was. And we talked about it all the time here. And of course, we were accused of racism and sexism and homophobia and being a bigot and being a transphobe. She's not trans, is she? I just want to be clear. She's not like a full-on lesbian, though, right? She was bisexual, wasn't she? I can't remember. Anyway, she got the job and she broke the glass ceiling. And now she has made the fateful mistake of claiming that she is no longer a Democrat. And this book apparently is going to criticize a lot of Democrats for not standing by Joe Biden because, damn it, he was fully capable. Fully capable. All right. So in the final year of the administration, the conflict between Karine Jean-Pierre and John Kirby became acute. And early in the year, when Joe Biden was still running for re-election, Karine Jean-Pierre, most people believe, was already planning her exit. He wins re-election. She backs out. She's done. She moves on to her Fortune 100 job or her cable news show, just like Jen Psaki got. Or he loses the election, ditto. She was the good soldier. She was loyal. She moves on to her Fortune 100 company or her cable news show. But to navigate this and to sort of push back against the infringement of John Kirby, because this is her final year to audition for her next gig. So she needs to be the shining light there. And Kirby is like muscling in on her territory. So it was rumored, and some people reported, that she had hired a publicist in New York to help her with her image, help promote her, and at times, it is believed, even helped craft some of the messaging that she would deliver at the podium. Now, that last part there is definitely against the law. That is a non-protocol way of doing things. If you've got an outside person consulting and working with you on any of your work product at the White House, that needs to be disclosed. It needs to be out front, like Elon Musk is a special government employee, right? They don't need to be a full-time federal employee, but this is a thing, okay? Only the president is allowed to take advice from people. Anyone else who's actually working with staff on an official, unofficial basis, that's got to be transparent. So look at this article. This is based on yesterday's book release, right? The announcement of Karine Jean-Pierre's book. New York-based publicist Gilda Squire worked informally with Jean-Pierre while she was in the White House and was on multiple occasions copied on official emails before staffers raised the issue. Another former official said Squire previously served as publicity director for HarperCollins Publishers and also did PR for Penguin Putnam Publishing, according to her LinkedIn. And Jean-Pierre was the subject of several lengthy profiles in lifestyle publications, including Vogue and Women's Health, and traveled to New York to appear on The View. The implication there, or certainly the inference I'm getting, is that because of the work of Gilda Squire, the New York-based publicist, she was able to get those Vogue stories and an appearance on The View and all of those things. And now, presumably, the book deal that she's landed. And at the time, she was copied on official White House emails and correspondence, which would be improper to say the least, if not illegal. But here's the really interesting thing. Alex Thompson, you remember him, Jake Tapper's co-author. Well, he's angry about this revelation that was in this. I think that was a Politico article that you just saw. He's really angry. According to Alex Thompson, hang on, the White House repeatedly told me that this was not true. Oh, hang on. There it is. That's what we're looking for. The White House repeatedly told me that this was not true back when I asked about Gilda Squire's involvement in February of 2024. So not only did the White House, and I love it's the White House. Who in the White House, Alex? So the same people in the White House who lied to you about Joe Biden's competence and lack thereof also lied to you about this publicist. I'm guessing it's Karine Jean-Pierre, right? Or people in the communications office. But they all told Alex Thompson, oh, that's not true. Gilda Squire is not, because this was a rumor. People were talking about this in D.C. Alex Thompson is trying to report on it. They denied it. Now Politico has confirmation of it. So now Alex Thompson is pissed. I mean, how many times do these people have to lie to you before you get the picture, Al? So now he's producing emails that he had with the aforementioned publicist, Gilda Squire. Says, if you don't tell the truth, off the record no longer applies, okay? Because here, in February of 24, he wrote this email. Hi, Ms. Squire. I hope you're well. I'm a reporter at Axios, and I'm planning to report that White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has recently enlisted you to help her as she navigates this crazy situation with Kirby and the White House. My deadline is at 7 p.m. Do you have a moment? She replied, and she said, good evening. Nice to meet you. May I respond off the record? Thompson says, yes, you can. And she said, off the record, this is unequivocally untrue. Thank you. By the way, why does that have to be off the record? I mean, if it's not true, why not go on the record and say it's not true? And of course, the reason is because it was true. And so Alex is like, okay, that's it. You lied to me. So I'm not going to protect your anonymity anymore. Think about that for a minute. I'm going to take a sip of my Independent Women's Forum koozied soda here. Alex Thompson, reporter and one of the last good journalists, he just won an award for covering Joe Biden's health at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. Alex Thompson says that if you ask for anonymity and I find out you lie to me under that anonymity, then off the record no longer applies. My friends, his entire book is about how people at the White House lied to him. And in writing the book, as they now tell the truth, he is giving them anonymity. The people who lied to him, that he's making millions of dollars with. These people are soulless. They have absolutely no values and no principles. Megyn Kelly saw this exchange. God bless that woman. We love you, Megan. Megyn Kelly saw this Alex Thompson exchange and said, hey, Alex, when you and Jake Tapper came on my show and said White House and Democrat sources were lying to you about Biden's mental acuity when you asked in 2023 and 24, those sources came clean post-election. So why don't their off-the-record defenses of Biden get the same treatment? Good question, Megan. Still waiting for Alex's answer. I'll give you the answer because now by protecting their anonymity, I can make millions on a book. That's why. Journalistic integrity. As usual, Scott Jennings summed up all of this last night on CNN.
I agree with you. I don't think she will, although I would argue that it's pretty disloyal to leave the political party that, gave you your biggest career shot that you've ever had. But I tend to agree with you. I mean, I think the things we've learned in the last 2 years is that the two least credible sources of information in this world are the Gaza Health Ministry and Karine Jean-Pierre. And when she puts this book out, every single person who reads it, reviews it, or discusses it needs to remember that virtually everything she said about what was going on behind the scenes in the White House was an outright lie. And so when she puts a book out, I think we ought to treat it from a source that has a proven track record of lying from the podium of the White House to the American people.
Amen. And I would only say, Scott, the thing that you couldn't say, and I understand why you can't, so I'm going to cut you some slack, but I will only add that also goes for Jake Tapper, my colleague here, every day in prime time on CNN, because what Scott Jennings just said about Karine Jean-Pierre absolutely goes for him as well. We knew these books were coming out. We knew all the lies would be exposed. We knew the disintegration was coming. But my God, I never realized how gloriously destructive this was going to be. I hope you're enjoying it. Last night, the panel show that Scott Jennings performs on CNN absolutely erupted, as it sometimes does. But this time, they went nutso on Scott. And I think it's because they're pretty tired of him being right all the time. We're going to show you that in a second. But first, here's the topic in question. It had to do with Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. Now, she was conducting hearings yesterday on Capitol Hill. She was a witness about her budget and about the plans for the Department of Education. And the Democrats had this weird talking point about the curriculum and how it associates with doing away with DEI. Now, I don't think these guys really know what DEI means, but let's look at the questioning and then we'll break it down.
Two really quick questions. Do you think that Holocaust education in our schools is a DEI program? There's no card for that. That's just yes or no.
I can look at whatever card.
Holocaust education, is it a DEI? You can have a press conference to say whatever you want. I just need a quick answer to this.
Your soliloquy
is Holocaust, because this is my time, is Holocaust education a DEI program?
No.
Is African American Studies a DEI program?
I think I answered that with one.
I'm asking it again.
Listen, we should
just yes or no.
We should be able to teach
My
courses
point is they are DEI programs, both of them, because students need diversity, equity, and inclusion to understand their environments. So both Holocaust education and the teaching of African American history are important, which is why the state of Connecticut requires it in our social studies curriculum. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't support one without supporting the other. And looking at what happens in the schools and actually deferring to teachers, parents who are on curriculum committees, local boards of education in states who actually do the hard work, and listening to what they say would be incredibly helpful in this role.
Okay, so a couple of things here. First of all, 100% agree with the radical left-wing angry Democrat there. You're right. The local parents and the local teachers and the local school board should have the ability to do that. That's why we got to get rid of the Department of Education and stop tying education funds with all of these ridiculous strings like leftists and Democrats do all the time. Get rid of all of it. And if you want to put whatever curriculum you want to put into your local school system and poison the minds of the kids in your community, go right ahead. I don't care. Just let me do the opposite if I want to in my community. That said, when the Department of Education and the Trump administration announced that they were doing away with DEI programs for the school systems, did anybody think that meant Holocaust education or African American studies or any kind of curriculum. I mean, no, you realize that our school systems have to create departments of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they focus on things that have nothing to do with the curriculum. That's the problem. It has to do with who's being hired and who's being represented, and whether we're going to have Pride Week this week, and whether we're going to, rename the school because we don't like the name of that old white man general that it's named after. So we're going to name it after some socialist, Latino, bisexual, transgender person. That's the problem with all the DEI crap. It's these departments and divisions and vice presidents and human resources directors and the division after division after division that sucks all this money that never ends up in the classroom teaching the kids. That's why we oppose the DEI programs in our public schools, all of these mandates that have nothing to do with education. But somehow they're twisting this and warping this into having to do with subjects that are being taught in the classroom, which, I mean, I try to stay on top of these things, but I never saw that as a federal government issue related to DEI. Now, listen, there were critical race theory and gender studies curriculum that got weaseled into the system. That's not a DEI issue. That's just a radical left-wing agenda that got injected in. And yeah, that should be done away with. But that moment and a couple of other moments that had been set up and scripted for Linda McMahon, well, they got picked up by CNN, almost like CNN knew it was coming. And when it came time for Abby Phillips to present it to the panel show, she did it in the fair and unbiased way she always does. Actually, that's not true. The way she presents this topic is quite possibly one of the most biased, atrocious, obnoxious ways I've seen for a person who pretends like she actually doesn't have an agenda. She's just a straight down the middle journalist, right? Well, it's subtle, but maybe you can pick up on it.
Linda McMahon was grilled on Capitol Hill today over her department's DEI cuts, and the former WWE executive turned education authority didn't sound all that comfortable with the facts.
Would you say that it would be an illegal DEI for a lesson plan on the Tulsa Race Massacre?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Do you know what the Tulsa Race Massacre is?
I'd like to look into it more and get back to you on it.
Okay, so I look forward to that. How about the book Through My Eyes by Ruby Bridges, for instance?
I haven't read that.
Have you learned about Ruby Bridges?
If you have specific examples you'd like
That was a specific example.
After her department demanded schools sign a certification declaring they were DEI-free, McMahon was asked to clarify whether or not teaching African American history is now illegal.
I do not think that African studies or Middle East studies or Chinese studies are part of DEI if they are taught as part of the total history package. So that if you're giving the facts on both sides, of course they're not DEI.
I don't know what both sides of African American history would be.
What is the other side of African American history?
Yeah, like I said, it was subtle. Maybe you picked up on it. It began with her being described as former WWE executive and now education expert. We see you, Abby. We see you. You're about as subtle as an elephant's but that's fine. I don't need to pile on Abby Phillips because you know who's sitting right there? Look at him. He's got his hand on his chin. He's thinking it through. He's waiting for his entree. Studying the Holocaust part of DEI? What about this book by Ruby Bridges? What are you kidding me? Ruby Bridges, absolutely. That's critically important for the Secretary of Education to respond to. Okay, let's watch how the panel discussion unfolds.
That is definitely true. But this president has also said that it's about merit, that they want to get DEI out of every part of American life. Why on earth, then, do they have someone who seems not prepared or qualified, perhaps, for the job that she's been placed in?
You know, the main difference between this cabinet and the Biden cabinet is that these people are actually allowed to go in and see the president, unlike the Biden cabinet, who were apparently not allowed to see.
Are you going to answer? Are you going to answer for? Are you going to answer for this, or are you going to change the subject?
The only thing I care about for the education secretary, the literal only thing I care about, is what they are doing to close the Department of Education. I don't care how many books she's read. I don't care what answers to gotcha questions she has. I just want to know how quickly can we close the department?
How is a gotcha question to ask, do you know what the Tulsa race massacre is? Or do you know who Ruby Bridges is?
You know what the answer to that question she should have given?
Yeah.
She should have said, Congresswoman Lee, it was Summer Lee asking the question, as a Congresswoman in Pittsburgh, why is it that when you were asked to vote, is anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, you chose the side of the terrorist? How is it when you were asked to condemn anti-Semitism on campus? That's an education issue. She took the side of the terrorist. Summer Lee is the exact wrong person, and it's faux outrage for Democrats to sit here and take Summer Lee's side against Linda
I want to
McMahon.
play, because since you brought up the anti-Semitism of it all, she was pressed by a different congressperson about all the different things that you may or may not be allowed to teach in American universities. Listen to this.
Would the Harvard government department be compelled to hire faculty that believe the 2020 election was stolen?
I believe that there are rights to freedom of speech, but on campuses and universities of colleges and universities across the country, freedom of speech should be allowed.
Does refusing to hire a Holocaust denier as a member of Harvard's history department faculty count as an ideological litmus test?
I believe that there should be diversity of viewpoints relative to teachings and opinions on campuses.
You know, if I were her, if I may just jump in there, I would say, you know, that's a really interesting question about the Holocaust denier being on a college campus, stuff like that. Tell you what, let me think on that. But while we're at the whole question and answer testing thing, can I ask you a question real fast, Congressman Purple Jacket? Can I ask you a question? Can a man be pregnant? Can a man get pregnant? When you can answer that question, I'll answer your question. This is obscene, ridiculous. You saw they had the charts. They all had their script. They all had their bullet points. They all had their rehearsed stuff. And of course, they gave CNN a heads up. Oh, make sure you grab this video. It's going to be great. Trust me. We're going to get her. We're going to get her. We're going to get her. And well, I guess they got the panel show they wanted, but I don't know if they got all of the reactions they were expecting.
A diversity of viewpoints about Holocaust denying?
That's not what she said. That's not what she said. That is not at all what just happened there.
Hold on.
She's saying that college faculty are uniformly partisan, liberal, progressive, radicals.
All right.
And that's
I guess let me just read again what was just said. The question, does refusing to hire a Holocaust denier as a member of Harvard's history department count as an ideological litmus test? She says, I believe there should be diversity of viewpoints relative to teachings and opinions on campus. I don't understand.
She was not answering what is a patently ridiculous question. And no Republican should take any lectures about anti-Semitism right now from Democrats.
Why on earth would she not be able to answer that question?
She has the same answer that every Republican has had for time immemorial. Why isn't there any diversity of viewpoint in the faculty at a college?
So what is the answer?
It was a joke of a question.
Okay.
It was a joke of a question.
So what's the answer? What's the answer?
The answer
is it an ideological litmus test to have a Holocaust denier be asked to ask?
That's not an ideological. Is there an ideological litmus test that you have to believe in progressive radicalism to get hired now? Because that's what it seems like to us.
Holocaust denialism.
That's the box they have to check.
Card-carrying, textbook anti-Semitism. You think
wasn't responding
doesn't
to
count?
That. She wasn't responding to that, and is a patently ridiculous assertion.
Why are you assuming that she wasn't responding to that when she gave
that
answer?
Because I'm a thinking human being who can see what a rational person would say to a ridiculous question.
She didn't say that's a ridiculous question.
You were totally misconstruing this.
Scott, literally, we played it for the American people to see.
Yeah, and every single person's going to see it my way.
She literally did not answer. She did not answer the question the way you want to answer the question, and that question has an answer. What is the answer?
The answer to that question is you're an idiot. To that congressman. That is the answer to that question.
What is the answer? Will the federal government, if somebody comes in and says, I don't believe the Holocaust really happened, will the federal government bring the hammer down on universities for saying that is not a viewpoint that we are allowing on our campuses?
The question would be
That the
what
answer,
kind of
the
litmus
answer
test-
ought to be no, but it sounds like neither of you want to give an answer.
No, the answer ought to be what kind of litmus test is Harvard putting on its faculty now?
Yes.
Only 3% of its
Abby,
faculty are Republican.
I mean, she didn't have a note card in front of her to tell her the answer, and this is what happens when you have somebody who lied about having an education degree. They didn't teach about the Holocaust maybe when she was getting her French degree.
You are
If she
way
actually
out
has that,
out over
the
the
reality
We also,
is,
if we also didn't even,
if we
You're accusing her of being a Holocaust
no,
denier?
please, Scott. Hold on a second.
This is outrageous.
Excuse me,
I'm
Scott.
not say that.
Stop. Everybody stop for a second.
I told you they're getting sick and tired of Scott Jennings being so good and so right. This is such a setup. This was such a plan. I mean, set up from the congressman as well at the panel. They knew they had this, and they decided to create this entire scenario. Jennings is not having it. But this may be, I mean, we watch this show all the time. This is our show prep for you guys every day. We love Jennings and what he does on the show. This is one of the most Looney Tunes panel discussions they've ever had, based on complete and total bull. 100%. And for Abby, I'm sorry, Abby Phillips is either as stupid as Karine Jean-Pierre, or she's play acting here. Why can't she answer that question? Well, first of all, it's amazing to me that it is determined a Holocaust denier is in some way someone who has an ideology. That's just a weird description for somebody who denies the Holocaust. But the obvious question there proposed to the Secretary of Education is that, oh, okay, so we're going to set up certain ideological litmus tests or certain criteria. I mean, honestly, if I'm hiring somebody for the history department at a university and they deny as historic fact an event that happens, that has nothing to do with ideology. That has to do with their competence as a historian, right? For instance, if you're hiring somebody for, let's say, the biology department, and they deny that there are two sexes and only two sexes, that's also the denial of fact. That's not ideology. That's somebody who is incompetent. See, think that through for a minute. And you want to carry this out based on the logic that the Democrats and Abby Phillips and this panel of left-wingers are trying to thrust upon Scott Jennings. Why can't you just say that you won't hire a Holocaust denier? It's like, well, that's a stupid question. It's like saying, why can't you just say you won't hire somebody who denies the basic biological reality that there are only two sexes, male and female? You see, because in the biology department, maybe that is true. Maybe the people who actually do respect science at a college or university do maintain that scientific fact, but not in the dean's office, not in the president's office, not in the HR office, not in the LGBTQ gay rights department at the college and university, and sadly these days, not in the athletics department. You see the point? Frankly, I don't want my Secretary of Education answering a question like that, because you see it for what it is. But boy, was this a setup. And it gets even crazier. Now that Abby Phillips has calmed everybody down, watch it play out to the end.
Excuse me, Scott. Nobody accused her of being a Holocaust denier.
You're implying that that's what she wants.
No one did
You're
that.
implying.
It is completely.
The line of inquiry here
just
is an
stop for just a
implication
second.
that she's like, sure,
it is
let's do that.
completely disingenuous for you to sit at this table and say that we accused her of being a Holocaust
I think it's
denier.
disingenuous
No
to portray
one.
this interaction the way you are.
Absolutely
That's my view.
no one said that. It is
How are you portraying
disingenuous.
it? How are you portraying
It's
it?
disingenuous. It's disrespectful.
I
and
think
it's wrong.
the
question was
So,
disingenuous.
excuse me.
It was a disingenuous question.
How
from
is
Congressman
it a
Connolly.
disingenuous question? The other part of the question is, if you are an election denier, and Harvard said you can't be an election denier and teach at this school, is that a litmus test?
The question is, what litmus test is Harvard putting on its faculty?
Okay,
We
listen,
know they have one
we gotta
set of
go,
ideology.
but it is very clear that neither of you want to answer a very simple question.
So now you're accusing
Are you
us.
allowed?
Are you accusing us?
Is Harvard?
Are you accusing him and me?
Is Harvard allowed, or
Go
any
ahead and do
school,
it.
is any school allowed to say that these are facts, and if you don't believe in facts, you cannot teach here? Are they allowed to do that?
The question is, what is the litmus test
Scott,
today?
don't
and what
do
kind of
not
faculty do you
answer
want?
my
you want
question.
people who all have the same
Do
views
not,
or a
when you
diversity
answer
of
my
views?
question with a question, you are dodging.
When
So
you
answer
ask me
the
when you ask me
question.
questions that I think are kind of ridiculous framing of this issue, then I think
How
you're
is it a
misconstruing the
ridiculous
issue.
framing?
Because
You either believe that there are things that are facts or you don't.
I do believe in facts, and I also
Okay.
believe that that member of Congress was creating a disingenuous, ridiculous question designed for this gotcha moment right here.
Okay, it is very telling that you are not able or willing to even entertain an answer. You could answer the
gave you
question
an
right
answer.
now and you
Harvard has a
refuse
right-
to do it.
Wait a minute.
Look,
No, Harvard has a right to have any
Okay.
litmus test they want for their faculty. They're a private institution.
Okay,
They
all
can-
right. Well, there's the answer to your question. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Coming up next, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Huh. You can tell the tension there. You can tell the hostility. You can tell exactly what was at play there. And you heard what Abby Phillips said there at the end, that it's very telling, Scott. It's telling that you won't answer that question. Remember earlier when Scott Jennings says, listen, the whole purpose of this is to imply that if you won't say, no, a Holocaust denier should not be hired by a college, if you can't say that, then that means you must be a Holocaust denier too. Scott Jennings made that point, and then just a minute later, the host of that program herself used those words. It's telling that you won't answer the question. I don't know if you saw. Let me get to it real fast, because Scott Jennings gave her a look when she said that. Watch here. Let me get her right back up there.
Framing.
Because
You either believe that there are things that are facts or you don't.
I do believe in facts, and I also
Okay.
believe that that member of Congress was creating a disingenuous, ridiculous question designed for this gotcha moment right here.
Okay, it is very telling that you are not able or willing to even.
See that? Do you see that moment? When she said it's very telling, and Scott Jennings went. Because Abby Phillips right there is implying that Scott Jennings in some way doesn't want to get on the bad side of Holocaust deniers. That's what this whole thing was set up to do. I told you it was mayhem on the show last night. I told you that the panel absolutely erupted at Scott Jennings, and as usual, he held his own. I'll tell you this now. CNN has a problem on their hands. That show and the relationship between those two, that's a problem. They need to resolve it. Now, in my mind, the answer is to get rid of everyone else making noise on that panel and give Scott Jennings his own show. They either do that, or they're in danger of losing him and losing whatever they've got left of an audience. As you know, Congress is trying to wrestle through President Trump's big, beautiful bill. I really do wish they'd stop calling it that. They should call it what it is. The most monumental, earth-shattering economic boon of a tax cut the American people will ever experience. They have no idea how big this is going to be. They don't even know how to measure the benefits of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, and the permanent extension of the 2017 tax cuts. They have no idea. That's what this bill is. But they're juggling around and they're saying that the cuts aren't big enough. Of course, the cuts aren't big. That's not what this is. It's not a cut and spend bill. It's a tax cut reconciliation package. You want to cut spending and cut the budget? Start your appropriations committee today, Republicans. Let's go. Don't put all your eggs in this reconciliation basket. You're in charge. You've got Article 1 power. Start the committee hearings now on appropriations for 2026 and cut all you want. But give us our tax cut first. In fact, it's not just any tax cut. It's the tax cut that Donald Trump just ran and won on. Perhaps you forgot the 2024 presidential election. That's kind of a mandate. So why don't you give the people what they voted for? All right. Enough of my lecture for the very small handful of Republicans who are going squishy on this thing. What I really want to tell you is that as dysfunctional as Republicans may seem right now, as they figure out a way to pass this thing, Democrats are about 1,000 times worse. They've got nothing. It's an embarrassment, actually, right now, even from the people who are supposedly their top legislative and political geniuses. You know, like this person. Remember her? She's back because it's all about the children. She's not a speaker anymore, of course, or a majority or minority leader. She's just one of 210 Democrats. She's a backbencher. But when she speaks, people listen. So it was time yesterday for her to finally put down the hammer on the Republican reconciliation bill. And boy, did she deliver. Check this out.
This is fiscal engineering to reduce the role of government in the lives of the American people where it is most needed. Where it is most needed. This is Robin Hood in reverse, taking resources from where it is most needed, the people who need it most, and giving it to those who need it less, the billionaires in America. This is shameful, and it is a fraud.
Wow, that's compelling, isn't it? And so powerfully delivered. A tear in my eye. When it comes to elocution and political rhetoric, she is right up there with Joe Biden. Yeah, it's sad, honestly. I mean, and she's running for re-election, by the way. She's already announced it. So there you go. That's going to convince the American people whose side to be on, isn't it? This is Robin Hood in reverse. Oh my gosh, what a new and extraordinarily novel political message. You're stealing from the poor and giving it to the rich because you're Republicans and that's what you do, and no one buys it anymore. How rich did she get off of her insider trading in Congress? But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Even more embarrassing, even more cringe, even more ineffective. This guy, who, by the way, is like 10 years younger. Go figure. The Senate Crypt Keeper crawled out of his grave and delivered this compelling message.
And we all know one thing. Donald Trump is just lying about the bill. Lying about the bill. Well, here's the "We Are All Going to Die" act.
Honestly. No. If Saturday Night Live had written this for their show this Saturday, it would have been hilarious. The audience at the studio at 30 Rock actually would have loved this. Not only are they calling it the "We're All Going to Die" act, but then they decided to create a graphic with the headline, "Well, We're All Going to Die" act. And then Chuck Schumer, just to subtly hammer the message home, had to recite and read it while he pointed to each word. I'm sorry, Chuck, what are we calling it?
Lying about the bill. Well, here's the "We Are All Going to Die" act.
He's the best they've got. So let me just get this straight. Over in the House of Representatives, Speaker Emeritus, the grande dame of the Democrat Party, probably the most senior and respected elected official for the Democrats in America today, Nancy Pelosi, sums up the reconciliation bill as reverse Robin Hood. And then you flip over to the Senate and Chuck Schumer says reverse Robin Hood. That's pretty good. How about "We're all going to die"? And even Democrats are laughing at them. It truly is pathetic. But that's actually not the worst of it. We also had committee hearings yesterday where Democrats once again had their script, had their talking points, and they were all ready to hammer Trump administration officials who were there to talk about the Reconciliation Act as well as fiscal year budget for 2026. Let's start with Russ Vought. He's your OMB director, and for all intents and purposes, he's the guy now in charge of everything Doge. I mean, he was before Doge, and all of the cuts and efficiencies and reformations that Elon Musk and his team were spearheading, they all answered to this guy, Russ Vought. He's fantastic. Even though Musk is gone now, the team is still there, and they're still doing their work, and it's up to Russ Vought to turn all the Doge recommendations into action, First, because of the rescission package that's already been put up that'll get rid of USAID and defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. No more PBS, no more NPR. Praise the Lord. But now this is about making sure that the government tightens its belt, gets better, gets more efficient, and stops pissing away your dollars. Russ Vogt's job is to get that in the budget for next year. He had to square off against the most ridiculous, laughable, mockable muppet of a congresswoman. You know her, you love her, check her out.
I appreciate your response. Thank you so much. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Womack. The chair now recognizes the ranking member of the full committee, Ms. DeLauro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, if you don't pass the $4.5 trillion tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country and the biggest corporations.
I'm sorry. I got to jump in real fast. Look at who is leading the charge for the Democrats right now against Donald Trump. You got her, and you got him. This is their dream team. This is who they've got. They're speaking on behalf of the people who care, the people, the downtrodden, you know? Okay, so please, Purplehead, Delario, tell it like it is. So I want you to watch the most important thing in this clip that you're about to see is the demeanor between, purple hair on fire, Muppet woman, screaming about all the people who are going to die because of all the cuts that the Trump administration is going to be putting through. And then just watch how Russ Vought handles it as he represents the president and you, if you voted for the president. Watch, you tell me who you believe. You tell me whose side you're on.
My friends who was gone now about the Constitution, read the Constitution. And there are many Republicans who have said that they haven't read the bill, and they're troubled by what's in this big, ugly bill that you're discussing. Let me just talk about empowerment. You speak about a tradition in this country, which is in fact fiction. You say over 200 years, presidential empowerment as carrying the day for all of you. You think you're so captured by the lie that you founded a multi-million-dollar think tank to republish the lie. I'm familiar with this work. The quality of the work is so bad. And let me just say, to characterize it, this is page after page, going back to 1789 of what people looked at in terms of impounding or stealing funds. And let's just tell this, that even in your fake history, almost all the examples that you document demonstrate that presidents have historically only delayed or refused to spend money when it was the Congress who gave them the power to do it. It's Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. That is operative. There should be no debate. You have impounded and stolen funds that you have no business doing.
Now, that's quite a charge, and Russ Vought will respond to that charge. But she's claiming that he has impounded and stolen federal tax dollars, federal dollars in the budget that she demands he spend, and he refuses to do it. That's stealing, she says. He'll respond in a second. But I just want you to understand something. Because our elected officials, they all show what they care most about. They show their passion. They show what drives them. They tell us what matters most to them. And I think President Trump wears this on his sleeve. You know what matters most to him. You know what he cares about. He lets you know it, right? There's no filter there, right? What have we learned from Democrats over the last few months about what motivates them and what's most important to them? Protecting the rights of illegal immigrants, rights that don't really exist. Especially if those illegal immigrants are members of gangs and criminals. Just this week, they're ready to die on the hill of family members of a terrorist who were in this country illegally, and the terrorist just firebombed and threw Molotov cocktails on innocent elderly Jewish people as they were demonstrating for Israeli hostage being held. One of them, a Holocaust survivor, who lay on the sidewalk burning from wounds due to this illegal immigrant terrorist who was allowed to stay in the country under Joe Biden. They are trying to protect his rights and his family's right to stay here and not be deported. And now Representative DeLauro here, the Muppet, disturbing looking Muppet nonetheless, look at how passionate and how animated and how ready she is to die on this hill. And I want to be clear so you know what the hill is, what she's arguing for. It's to spend your money. This is the Appropriations Committee. Their job is to decide where the money is to be spent. And as far as she is concerned, Congress doesn't work unless it's spending as much money as possible. She's not talking to the budget director, Russ Vought, here saying, okay, we appropriated all this money and you haven't spent it all. So were you able to get done what needs to get done? Because if so, that's great. We can send the money back in a tax cut. No. No, that's not what motivates her. That's not what gets her excited. That's not what compels her here. Look, have you ever seen this Congresswoman, or any Democrat for that matter, be this animated, this excited, this passionate about you keeping your money? Just why she's going to ramp it up here because, damn it, this committee is supposed to spend money and we better spend it. There is something very wrong with her and the way she and her party look at her role, their role in our federal government. Watch how this plays out.
You don't have that authority. The president doesn't have that inherent authority. And it has been documented by the courts, which is why over 250 lawsuits that have been filed, 185 plus rulings have opposed Trump initiatives. You are in violation of the law. That is what we should be dealing with in this effort. Would you recommit yourself to the truth, engaging with this committee, the American people, and the American people based on the respect for history as it actually has occurred?
We haven't impounded any money. We're under programmatic review of federal dollars across
You
the
have
board.
impounded money, $425 billion.
We don't know where that number came from other than
I'll
you,
tell you,
Congresswoman.
look at the tracker. We're following it very closely. And I would just say this, if people don't really want to appropriate and hold on to the power of the purse, then my suggestion is find another committee to sit on. Our responsibility is to make sure that we maintain that power of the purse and that what we say has got to be congressionally spent needs to be. And you do have a premise that in that bill, in the Empowerment Control Act, that allows you to come up with a rescission package. But what is at stake is the illegality of what you have done with impounding and stealing funds from the American public and the unbelievable consequences it will have on their lives and their families' lives.
Congressman, there's nothing.
The chair now recognizes Ms.
I love with all of that diatribe and all of the passion and all of the, like her hair on fire, if it weren't already so permanently damaged by the purple dye, that Russ Vought just says, we're not impounding anything. Nothing's been impounded. What are you talking about? And her only response was, go look at the tracker. And we'll end with this because, you know those folks, right? You know Pelosi, you know Schumer, you know DeLauro, at least you know what she looks like. You don't know this guy. This is Gary Peters, senator from Michigan, home of my birth. Senator Peters has Secretary Lutnick in front of him, Commerce Secretary. And Peters is very concerned that a air traffic control facility in his state of Michigan might get shut down or repurposed, threatening the employment of, 7 people. And what's really at play here is that the Commerce Department, along with the Department of Transportation, are finally modernizing the air traffic control system in this country, something that has been planned and budgeted and appropriated, but still never done for about 3 decades now. Everybody, even Democrats who aren't currently holding elected office, but know what they're talking about, will say, yeah, this is a problem. It's got to be fixed. But see, for Gary Peters, as far as he's concerned, air traffic control in the state of Michigan, that's not about public safety. That's not about making sure planes can take off and land. No, this is a jobs program. And I want to protect my jobs program. Now watch this exchange, which literally leaves Secretary Lutnick LOLing at the end. Watch.
So I'm going to ask you just a yes or no question. So this will be really short, and then we can get on to another issue. Will you commit to me that the forecasting office in Marquette, Michigan will not cease?
Oh, I am so sorry. Unlike Jake Tapper, I'm going to correct my error immediately. This is not about air traffic control. I'm sorry. That was another committee hearing, actually, of a video that I reviewed earlier. This has to do with weather forecasting. Weather forecasting. Again, completely outdated the way we're doing it right now in America. Private sector has more advanced weather forecasting at the college level. You go to the University of Oklahoma, and they've got better stuff going on than the federal government does. This is weather forecasting that he sees in Michigan as a jobs program. And poor Secretary Lutnick, he'd like to modernize the process. So watch the exchange. I just wanted to correct the record there. All right.
I'm going to ask you just a yes or no question. So this will be really short, and then we can get on to another issue. Will you commit to me that the forecasting office in Marquette, Michigan will not cease its round-the-clock operation? Yes or no would be great.
You don't understand it yet because no one's explained it to you. These are hard drive computers, literally, that no one has seen in 25 years with green screens in these offices. They should be on a cloud. Our 2,000 meteorologists should be able to watch them round the clock. The concept that we're talking about, a green screen and a hard drive.
So the answer is no, you're saying?
No, we were going to modernize it. We are going to staff those offices. I can commit that we're going to staff those offices, but I will commit to you that the next time you see me, the concept of having 3 people at some regional office will be laughable because our 2,000 meteorologists and our hundreds of hydrologists will be able to stay and forecast and protect us in a modern way instead of these green screens and hard drives, and it's hard-coded and it's absurd.
Okay, so a no answer, a no answer. One of Congress's biggest...
I love that he ended with the laugh there. It's like, did you not listen? I mean, you need to keep this office open. Well, what if the office is running on technology from 3 decades ago? Literally, the little green screens, like Matthew Broderick in War Games. That was really super edgy and modern when it first came out, but maybe we've moved on. Nope, you see, for Democrats, all they care about is making sure that that office stays open, because that's in my home state, don't you know? And that's how we get the dysfunctional, wasteful, fraudulent government spending that we have in this country, and it doesn't serve you. And that's the best of the best from the Democrats yesterday on their pathetic pushback on the big, beautiful bill, the tax cut bill, and the budget going forward. Listen, I think the thing's going to pass, and I think you're going to get your tax cut. If it doesn't, though, it will have nothing to do with these hapless fools. It'll have to do with the Republicans who just can't get their act together. All right, listen, we have a special announcement for a special show tomorrow. I saw people in the live chat there during the last clip talking about how there's no show tomorrow. Normally there wouldn't be. But first of all, thank you all for watching today. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking and sharing and all that jazz. But we do have a very special show tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for it. It's one of our longer conversations and interviews. You guys loved the one we did with the immigration judge. You're going to love this one. You're going to love this one. Kevin, should we tease the topic? Should we go ahead and do that? Or?
Yeah, you can. I also want to clarify to not get anyone's expectations up. This will not be live. This is pre-recorded and will be posted to all of our platforms.
We will post it tomorrow. Absolutely. And that's why you need to make sure you subscribe and get alerts on this channel, wherever you're watching. So when this video drops, you're going to want to see it. There's a whole lot of confusion, misinformation, disinformation about the circumstances on the ground in South Africa, especially after that scene 2 weeks ago in the Oval Office, right, with the president of South Africa. It's not a genocide. What is a genocide? What makes it a genocide? We've talked about it quite a bit on this show. We have a South African represent a person who is from South Africa, has lived there for generations. He loves his country, and he's trying to draw awareness to the reality on the ground. It's a hard-hitting interview. I challenge him on a lot of things. I ask him a lot of challenging questions. I have him respond to a lot of the talking points that you see from the left and from the media. It's really wide-ranging and I think important, and it's full of information. Again, we don't pretend to own the truth here. That's something that, you know, is more of a biblical concept, but we can work in fact. and we can deliver facts to you so that you can use your wisdom to reach the resolution that your heart tells you, that your brain tells you. This conversation tomorrow about the reality on the ground, the history of how we got here in South Africa, and what's really happening to people in that country will be incredibly enlightening, informative, and educational. And I really want you to see it. So make sure you take a look at that. Thank you very much. All right. Basically, what else have we got here? Captain Patriot with a $5 super chat. Why are none of these celebrities accused of Diddy or Epstein connections filing defamation suits? Because they know they're guilty. That's a very interesting thing. Boy, I see all of these names floating around, Ellen DeGeneres and Tom Hanks and Bill Gates, and you're so right. Like if people were throwing my name out there, let this be a warning to some of you haters out there, some of you trolls. You throw my name out there and my picture and my image and claim that I've performed some of the horrible acts that these people, you will hear from my attorneys. You hear me, Kevin?
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Captain Patriot. Richard Murray with a $10 super chat. Have a great weekend, #1 best-selling author. Hey, did I mention that I'm a #1 best-selling author right now? See how it says #1 bestseller right there? You see that? I'm pointing at my screen. You see where it says #1 bestseller right there? Right there. Thank you very much. Buy my book. By the way, you know what? Hang on. I want to show you something. The book is number 7 in campaigns and elections. It's not #1. But when you look at the other books, so #1 is Bob Woodward. #2 is Jonathan L. and Amy Parnes. #3 is Jake Tapper's book. It's not even #1 anymore. These two books, this book is, how old is the Bob Woodward book? That's like 6 months old. The Amy Parnes, Jonathan Allen book came out in January or February. This book has only been out for 2 weeks, and it's already dropped to #3. Selena Zito's book isn't even out yet, and it's right behind Jake Tapper's book. Isn't that amazing? Joe Conch's book, and then my book. See that? It's sorry. But it is hilarious how quickly the Jake Tapper book is just dropping like an anvil in a lake. Jim with a $10 super chat. Please contribute so that Larry can give Kevin some good whiskey like a 14-year Balvenie Doublewood. Ooh, I don't even know what that is. But are you more of a bourbon guy or a Scotch guy?
You're going to hate my answer to this.
Are you more of a whiskey guy? You don't like either.
I drink tequila because it's the skinniest liquor.
Is it really? I thought vodka was.
Nope.
The skinniest. What are you? You're so maha that it even affects your imbibing.
Of course.
I like tequila. The problem is I don't like tequila with a cigar or with a pipe. You got to have like that's where whiskey and bourbon or a good heavy red wine comes in. Do you not? Oh, you don't. You do your Zin. You don't even smoke cigars, do you? Have you smoked a cigar
ever in my life? Of course.
But you don't like it anymore.
You know, my dad gave me a pipe set that my grandpa left to him, and I used to bring that out every once in a while, but I haven't in a while.
Dude, you know, when you come up to my house for a weekend, and you should this summer. Actually, Storm's coming up for a weekend too. Maybe you should come up that same weekend.
Oh my God.
We should sit around the fire in Annapolis, and we'll do our pipes. My son-in-law got me a pipe, and it's like a I think I've shown it to you. It's like a Gandalf pipe from the Shire.
Yeah, token coated.
Yes. Oh my God, I love smoking my pipe now. I used to just be about cigars. I've just started the pipe because of my son. I have a son-in-law, you know. Susan Scheller with a €6 super chat. Hello, Europe. In fact, Susan, you're from the Netherlands. I think that you'll appreciate the conversation tomorrow about South Africa. Democrats, aka neo-Marxists, you're a Mark Levin listener, Susan, I can tell. Don't love the poor. They hate the rich, unless it's of course, because some animals are more equal. That's a George Orwell reference. I love Animal. And everyone says, 1984. Actually, Animal Farm, I think, is actually the superior work to 1984. Thank you, Susan, for that super chat. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow for a special Friday show. So make sure you subscribe, hit that alert button so you don't miss our interview. And in the meantime, enjoy your cigars. Yes.
We do have Rumble.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I knew that. Sorry. $5 super chat over at Rumble from Arthur Brogdon. And with another Princess Bride reference. Larry, it would be inconceivable that I'm moving on. But screw up, and I vote we pull back and ... Was there more to that, or did you just leave it with the ellipses there?
That was it.
He is an enigma, that guy. An enigma wrapped in a puzzle, wrapped in a paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. What a great week. What a fun week. Our numbers are out of control. Hey, a lot of people are saying, I already subscribed. I like all the time. What else can I do to help the show? You know what you can do to help the show? If you really want to know, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. That would be huge. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.